Imagine staring at a monitor, right? Your heart rate is just pinned at like 180 beats per minute.
Oh, easily. You can practically feel it in your throat.
Exactly. And you've executed this exact downshift perfectly for the 10,000th time in your career. But today, right now, with a championship on the line, your hand shakes.
Just a tiny micro flinch.
Yeah, just a millimeter of hesitation. You hit the wrong gear, your engine screams, the delta flashes red, and your race is just over. So, G-Day, and welcome to the paddock. For you listening right now, we are so glad you're here because today we are leaving the spanners in the toolbox.
Tightly locked up and shoved way to the back of the garage.
100%. We are tearing apart the OzOvals V8 Supercar series, and specifically we're looking back at the absolute carnage we just witnessed at Chicagoland for round 12.
Carnage is an understatement, honestly.
It was a mess. And we're also going to hand out some pretty tough love in our paddock penalty box, and then look ahead to the concrete beast Nashville Superspeedway for round 13. But before we crack into it, we need to establish the golden rule for this deep dive.
Oh, we have to lay the law down early.
We do. Listen closely, you guys.
Yeah.
There will be absolutely no talk about setups today.
None.
There will be zero whining about tire wear. And if I hear like a physics lecture about aerodynamic wash, I'm literally walking straight out of the booth.
I'll hold the door for you.
Thank you. I mean it.
Yeah.
This deep dive is 100% about the drivers. We want to know who has the mental fortitude, who cracks under the pressure, and, well, who has the sheer guts to just send it when it actually counts.
That's the only thing that matters when the lights go out.
Right. Which brings me to a question I want to throw right at you to kick things off.
Yeah.
People always say racing is won in the garage, building the perfect car. But looking at the chaos of Chicagoland, isn't it entirely won or lost between a driver's ears?
Oh, without a doubt. It is the only battleground. Chicagoland was basically the ultimate proof of that concept. Yeah, because, look, you can have the most perfectly calibrated car on the grid, right? You can have every aerometric optimized to the limit. But if your amygdala hijacks your prefrontal cortex in those final 5 laps...
You're in the wall.
Exactly. You are putting that perfect machine right into the concrete. What we witnessed this week wasn't a failure of machinery. It was a catastrophic failure of cognitive load management for a lot of these guys.
Cognitive load. I like that. Think of a driver's brain like a computer's RAM, right?
Yeah, perfect analogy.
Driving the racing line, managing the throttle, that takes up, let's say, 60% of their available processing power.
On a good day.
Right, on a good day. But then you add the spotter screaming in their ear, you add the tire smoke blinding their view, and, I don't know, the lingering anger from getting bumped 2 laps ago. Suddenly, they hit 100% RAM usage.
And the system crashing.
The brain literally starts to buffer. And when a sim racer's brain buffers, their physical reflexes lag.
That is highly accurate. That's exactly how you have to frame it. And to really understand how that buffering dictates a race, you just have to look at the scoreboard from Chicagoland.
Yeah, let's pull it up.
Because this race was defined almost entirely by late race chaos. Some drivers managed their internal RAM perfectly, they kept their cool, and others just completely lost their heads.
Well, let's start with the podium heroes, the guys who managed their systems perfectly. Because Ruben Phelps, he absolutely stole this win on the final restart.
He really did.
The AI predictions had completely doubted him going into this race. He wasn't supposed to be the guy holding the trophy at the end of the day.
No, and he proved them all wrong by weaponizing patience.
Weaponizing patience. I love that.
It's true. If you look at Ruben's onboard feed for, the first 80% of that race, he is completely anonymous.
Yeah, just lurking.
Lurking in the mid-pack. But he wasn't just surviving back there. He was actively managing his physiological state.
Right. While guys like Adam Malone and Gary Wellman were out there just absolutely burning themselves out, fighting for meaningless track position early on.
Exactly. And let's break down the physiological cost of that kind of aggression in a sim rig. When Malone and Wellman are trading paint on lap 10, their bodies are just flooding with adrenaline.
Cortisol, all of it.
All the stress hormones. Their grip on the wheel tightens up, which that fatigues the forearms. Their breathing becomes really shallow.
Which means less oxygen to the brain, Russell.
Spot on. Reduces oxygen to the brain. Over the course of an hour-long race, that physical tension degrades your reaction time by crucial milliseconds. And Ruben, he just refused to participate in that early ego battle.
It's kind of like a high-stakes poker game. But instead of chips, they're betting their cognitive endurance.
That's exactly what it is.
Ruben basically folded every single early hand. He sat back, watched the heavyweights deplete their own energy reserves, and just waited.
You know, in sim racing, we constantly throw around the term situational awareness.
Sure, all the time.
But usually people think that just means spatial awareness, like knowing where the other cars are so you don't turn into them.
Right, checking your mirrors.
Yeah. But true, elite situational awareness, which Ruben demonstrated brilliantly here, is knowing the emotional state of the entire grid.
Oh.
He didn't just know where Malone and Wellman were. He knew they were getting frustrated.
You could see it in how they drive, right?
Exactly. He could see the aggressive way they were attacking the curbs. He knew they were driving angry.
So he just saves his cognitive energy, keeps his heart rate at this cool resting pace, and waits for the exact moment it matters. That final restart.
Yep. He folds early, then goes all in on the river.
And sweeps the pot. Now, if Ruben survived the race by hiding his car and avoiding stimulus, it kind of begs the question, what happens to the brain when you can't hide?
When you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah. What happens when the chaos is right on your bumper and you have to drive straight through it? That is the exact nightmare Cade Donnelly faced to secure his second-place finish.
Cade's performance was a masterclass. Just a masterclass in threat assessment and visual processing speed.
Because it was a hornet's nest out there.
It was. When you're in the middle of a pack that is actively self-destructing, which is exactly what was happening in those closing laps, your brain is just bombarded. Visual info, auditory info.
Sparks, smoke, cars twitching.
Right, erratic movements ahead. And your spotter is in your ear screaming, go low, go low.
Most drivers just experience complete sensory overload in that environment. I mean, I would. You just flinch. You make a jerky reactive movement and put yourself right into the spin.
Well, the human brain is wired to focus on the immediate threat. The natural instinct is to stare directly at the crashing car.
Target fixation.
Exactly. But in racing, if you look at the crash, your hands will subconsciously steer you right into it.
Which Cade didn't do. He didn't flinch.
His brain was able to filter out all that noise. He overrode that primal instinct to stare at the danger, and he identified the single safe vector through the chaos.
But how does he actually do that, practically speaking? Because when you watch the replay, it looks like he's in the Matrix.
It comes down to predictive processing. Elite sim racers aren't just reacting to what's happening right now. Their brains are processing pixel changes on the screen to predict a crash milliseconds before the cars actually make contact.
Wait, really? Just from the pixels?
Yeah. Cade is looking through the windshield of the car in front of him. He sees the suspension of the lead car unload abruptly, and his brain instantly calculates the trajectory of the spin that's about to happen.
So he's steering away before the crash even officially starts.
Making micro-adjustments before the first spark even flies.
That is just terrifying precision. And then, rounding out the podium, snagging third place, we have Sean Signori.
What a run!
An epic underdog performance. So it's such a shock when a driver suddenly pops up on the podium amidst the regular heavyweights. You spend your whole season fighting for like 12th, and suddenly you look up and you're running third with 5 laps to go.
Which introduces a completely different psychological hurdle, honestly. Imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
And in a sim rig, imposter syndrome isn't just a feeling. It manifests physically.
How so? Like, what does that look like in the car?
Well, when you're in the mid-pack, you're the hunter. The expectations are low. Your brain is focused entirely on offense, like, how do I gain spots?
Right, nothing to lose.
Exactly. But when you suddenly find yourself in a podium position, surrounded by championship contenders, the pressure dynamic flips. Your brain switches from, how do I gain spots, to how do I avoid losing this?
Ah, the shift from hunter to hunted.
Precisely. And that defensive mindset causes a physical reaction. The driver tenses up. They start overthinking their braking points. A corner they've taken flat out 50 times suddenly feels dangerous, so they lift slightly.
They start checking their relative delta time every 2 seconds instead of looking at the road.
Yes. The imposter syndrome creates this self-fulfilling prophecy where the fear of losing the position physically causes them to drive slower, and then they lose the position.
But Sean didn't do that.
He didn't. He accepted the bright lights, he ignored the intimidating names on the bumpers around him, and he just maintained his offensive flow state. He drove his own race.
I mean, the podium at Chicagoland was basically a Psych 101 textbook. But man, if the podium was the textbook, the guys who missed their opportunities, that was a Greek tragedy.
Heartbreaking.
We have to talk about Perry Anastakis. I mean, this one physically hurt to watch.
It was excruciating. I felt sick for him.
Let's just lay it out for the listener really quick. Perry executes his strategy perfectly. He navigates all the late race chaos, and he places himself sitting beautifully in second place for the final restart.
Perfect positioning.
The trophy is practically in his hands.
Yeah.
And then, in the final moments, he accidentally downshifts to fourth gear.
Ugh.
He plummets through the field, drops like a stone, and finishes fifth. Now, you know people on the forums will just say, oh, it's just a mechanical slip, he hit the wrong paddle.
Always the excuse.
But he didn't get beat by the track. He didn't get beat by the machinery. Did he just choke when the lights got bright?
He got beat by his own prefrontal cortex. It is the textbook definition of choking under pressure.
I want to dig into that because choking sounds like an insult, right? Like a lack of courage.
Yeah, and it's not. It's not a character flaw at all. It is a very specific neurological event. We really need to understand what choking actually is.
Okay, lay it on me.
Under normal circumstances, shifting gears is governed by muscle memory. It's a subconscious action controlled by the basal ganglia and the motor cortex. Perry has downshifted perfectly tens of thousands of times. He doesn't think about it. His hand just does it.
Like breathing or walking. You don't walk down the street thinking left foot, right foot.
Exactly. But under extreme pressure, like a final restart for a race win, the brain's executive control center, the prefrontal cortex, suddenly gets overwhelmed by the stakes of the moment.
It freaks out.
It says, this downshift is incredibly important for the championship. I can't leave this to autopilot. Let me take manual control.
Oh, wow. So the brain literally micromanages the hand.
Yes. And the conscious brain is much slower and far less smooth than the subconscious motor system.
Because it's overthinking.
The interference between the conscious thought and the subconscious motor skill causes a physical tremor, a micro-hesitation. His hand betrayed his mind because his conscious brain ripped control away from his muscle memory.
He was picturing the champagne instead of staying present in the sequence of driving.
He stopped being in the moment.
The psychological toll of that has to be just devastating. I mean, to go from picturing the podium, feeling the adrenaline of the restart, to suddenly staring at your dash as the engine screams in the wrong gear, and you just watch the entire field fly past you.
It shatters your internal trust. Honestly, the hardest part for Perry this week isn't losing the points. It's getting back into the rig for practice and wondering if his hands are going to listen to his brain.
Oh man, yeah. The doubt.
It takes weeks to rebuild that subconscious trust after a high-profile choke like that.
And speaking of shattered trust, let's look at the reigning champion, Gary Wellman.
Talk about a nightmare.
An absolute disaster of a finish in 20th place. Now, Gary was running up front early, he's mixing it up, but he got completely swallowed by the pack. And the catalyst for this was receiving a black flag for passing under yellow.
Yep.
But here's the critical context for you listening. That black flag was caused entirely by Nick Burling.
Totally.
Burling left a massive, completely unpredictable gap on the restart, which completely threw the momentum out the window for the entire lead pack. Gary reacts to this broken sequence in front of him, makes a pass, and gets penalized.
This scenario perfectly illustrates the concept of locus of control and how a driver's perception of control dictates their emotional stability.
Okay, break that down. Locus of control.
Gary is a champion. Right. Champions generally possess a very strong internal locus of control. They believe their actions dictate their outcomes.
I drive fast, I win. I make a mistake, I lose.
Right. But when Nick Burling leaves that massive gap, he introduces an unpredictable external variable that Gary cannot control. Gary is forced into a split-second decision governed by the erratic behavior of another driver.
So he's reacting, not acting.
Exactly. And when race control issues Gary a black flag for an incident that feels entirely orchestrated by someone else's incompetence, it destroys that internal locus of control.
And when a champion feels helpless, they don't just accept it, they get furiously angry.
Getting a penalty for something out of your control is psychological torture. The feeling of extreme injustice triggers pure, blinding frustration. The why me spiral begins.
And once you enter that spiral,
your driving discipline vanishes. Gary got swallowed by the pack because his mind was no longer in the race. He was mentally arguing his case to the stewards instead of analyzing the bumper of the car right in front of him.
He let the injustice degrade his focus. That's rough. Now, I have one more heartbreak for you.
Yeah.
And it's wild because it belongs to the guy who actually won the race, Ruben Phelps.
The duality of man right here.
Truly. Ruben wins the race, executes this absolute masterclass in patience, but he missed a colossal opportunity to extend his championship lead in a clean way.
Yeah, he really shot himself in the foot.
Because despite taking the checkered flag, the stewards hit him with a 10-point penalty, an EOL end-of-line start for the upcoming race at Nashville, and 4 weeks of strict probation.
Massive penalties.
Massive. And why? Because of an intentional crash he caused during a practice session.
It is utterly fascinating to me. Here is a driver who demonstrated ultimate Zen patience during the actual race, folding his hands, managing his heart rate, waiting for the river. But in a low-stakes practice session, he completely loses his temper and deliberately wrecks another driver.
How do you even reconcile that? I mean, is he a monk on Sunday and a madman on Wednesday?
He's a human being managing a finite reserve of emotional regulation. We call this ego depletion.
Ego depletion.
Yeah. Self-control is not an endless well. It functions like a muscle. When you are exerting massive amounts of mental energy to be perfect, to be patient, to suppress your natural aggressive instincts, that muscle gets tired.
Wait, so you're saying Ruben was so focused on being disciplined for the championship run that he literally ran out of willpower?
Exactly. When the dam breaks, it often breaks in lower stakes environments. During practice, the adrenaline is lower, the immediate consequences feel less severe, and the exhausted brain just says, I don't care anymore, I'm taking this guy out.
Wow.
It's a lapse in discipline caused by the very effort it takes to be disciplined. But now, because of that singular moment of weakness, he has completely altered the psychological landscape of his championship hunt.
That transition is too perfect, honestly. Because while some guys like Gary and Perry just missed their chances due to pressure, others actively threw their own races into a dumpster fire, and they dragged half the grid in with them.
Yeah, they really did.
It is time to open the door to the paddock penalty box.
We're going to need a bigger box after Chicagoland.
We really are. Let's hand out some tough love here. First up, Peter Madsen. We are calling him out right now. He caught the rear of the pack, completely lost his situational awareness, and ended up in the wall, causing an absolute headache for the entire field.
Just a mess.
And then you have Jake Atkinson, who found the wall early and collected Craig Rafa as a completely innocent bystander.
With Atkinson, we really have to debate the root cause of these early race incidents. Is this a fundamental lack of spatial awareness, or is it just the classic rookie mistake of tunnel vision?
I lean heavily toward tunnel vision. I really do. When you're new to a highly competitive series like OzOvals, the sheer intimidation factor is massive. Your world shrinks.
It does.
You aren't looking at the whole track anymore. Your entire universe becomes the bumper of the car exactly 3 feet in front of you.
From a neurological standpoint, that is exactly what happens. Under severe stress, the human brain restricts peripheral vision.
Literally shrinks the field of view.
Literally shrinks it. It's a survival mechanism to focus on the immediate threat. But in oval racing, if your peripheral vision shuts down, you are actively dangerous.
Because things happen so fast.
You stop looking 3 corners ahead and start looking 3 inches ahead. If you're staring at the car directly in front of you, you're already crashing.
But the real tragedy of the rookie mistake is that it's rarely the rookie who pays the ultimate price.
No, it never is.
It's the innocent bystander. Craig Rafi's race is completely ruined because the guy next to him forgot how wide his digital car was. Innocent bystanders always pay the toll on the rookie highway.
It creates this awful culture of paranoia in the mid-pack. You aren't just driving your car, you're trying to predict the panic responses of the drivers around you.
But if Atkinson is a case of panic and tunnel vision, what in the world do we call Barry Donnelly? Because Barry was having an absolute mare out there.
Oh, Barry! A catastrophic systemic failure of the highest order.
Truly. He pits under green, completely messes up the sequence, catches a black flag, and ruins his entire night. I mean, he left his brain in the hauler. How does a driver at this level lose track of the race state so completely?
We talk about the red mist.
Oh, red mist.
It's a term we use in racing when a driver gets so frustrated, so caught up in a singular perceived slight or a bad sequence of corners, that the amygdala entirely shuts down the logical processing centers of the brain.
The RAM buffering we talked about earlier.
Worse than buffering. A complete system crash. Barry wasn't driving a race car anymore. He was driving a rage simulator.
A rage simulator. I love that.
When you are consumed by the red mist, you stop looking at the double time, you stop listening to your spotter, you stop calculating your fuel windows.
Because you just don't care.
Your brain is entirely consumed by anger, which means you make basic catastrophic errors because you are functionally impaired.
It's incredible to watch from the outside, just seeing a professional completely unravel like that. But it gets even wilder when that red mist spills off the track and into the community.
Oh, the chats.
We need to dive deep into the Discord drama, Because the mental warfare happening in the text channels is just as vicious, if not more so, than what's happening on the asphalt.
The off-track communication is a vital part of the metagame in any sim racing league. It really sets the tone for the entire week.
We have to unpack this sequence of events. So Andy Barber intentionally poleaxes Zach on the track, just absolutely dumps him.
Sends him flying.
And then, instead of apologizing or staying quiet, Andy proudly posts a faxed GIF in the Discord right after the incident.
Bold move.
Very bold. He posts this GIF effectively saying, yeah, I do it, and I do it again, and proudly accepts a 10-point penalty and a 1-week holiday from the stewards.
He owned the retaliation completely.
And the chat naturally erupts. You've got Troy B chiming in stating, any intentional wrecking is a week's holiday, period. I'm just a dumb farmer.
Gotta love the farmer wisdom.
Just dropping that folksy wisdom right into the middle of a digital war zone.
Yeah.
And then Todd Maxfield throws pure shade at Ryan Barber, dropping the "Who asked you, Ryan?" with the little tongue-out emoji.
That single emoji is doing a monumental amount of heavy lifting in terms of disrespect.
Oh, exactly. Let me throw an analogy at you. Looking at this Discord chat, it feels exactly like a heavyweight boxing weigh-in. The trash talk, the posturing, the psychological mind games. But I want to ask you, is this community just incredibly toxic, or is this the required mental warfare to establish dominance in the paddock?
I believe it's heavily calculated, specifically what Andy Barber did. Look at ice hockey, right? You have the role of the enforcer.
Sure, the guy who drops the gloves.
The guy who takes the penalty to protect the star player or just to send a message. In sim racing, when you intentionally wreck someone and then publicly own it with a GIF, you are sending a psychological shockwave through the entire grid.
Wait, I have to completely disagree with you there. You're saying he took the penalty on purpose as like a down payment on future intimidation?
Yes.
I look at that and see a total loss of emotional control. Intentionally taking a penalty doesn't make you an intimidating mastermind. It signals to the grid that you're a liability. Doesn't that just put a massive target on his own back?
It puts a target on his back, yes, but it also creates hesitation in his opponents. Let's look at the psychology of the enforcer. Andy is broadcasting a very specific message. I am willing to suffer a penalty. I am willing to sacrifice my own race to ensure you know that I am not to be messed with.
The doctrine of mutually assured destruction.
Precisely. Next time Andy is in someone's rearview mirror, they're going to remember that fax GIF.
They'll remember he's crazy.
They'll remember that he does not care about his own safety rating if he feels wronged. That thought alone creates a micro-hesitation in the driver ahead. And as we discussed with Perry's downshift, a micro-hesitation is all Andy needs to make the pass.
Wow.
You might see it as a liability, but it is an undeniably effective form of psychological warfare.
Okay, I see your point. It's twisted, but it makes sense. And Todd telling Ryan, no acta, it's about diminishing opponent's voice, publicly removing their status in the hierarchy.
Exactly. It's all status games.
The mental gymnastics these guys are doing all week long is exhausting.
Yeah.
But listen, if these drivers don't get their minds right, if they let this Discord drama distract them, the next track on the calendar is going to eat them alive and spit out the bones.
Round 13, Nashville Superspeedway.
The concrete monster. Now, keeping strictly to our golden rule, zero physics talk, no deep dives into grip levels or tire shear. Mentally, what does Nashville represent for a driver?
Nashville is an exercise in sensory deprivation and prolonged psychological torture.
Sounds fun.
Oh, it's brutal. On a traditional asphalt track, the track changes throughout the race. It talks to you, gives you visual and tactile cues about where the grip is moving.
Right, rubber gets laid down.
Yeah. Concrete is entirely unforgiving. It does not yield. It does not change. It demands absolute, unwavering driver patience and a level of mental discipline that most drivers simply do not possess for an hour straight. You cannot bully Nashville. And Matthew Raymond is coming in as the defending Nashville winner. So how does a driver mentally prepare to defend a title on a track that punishes the absolute slightest lapse in concentration?
It requires an incredibly difficult psychological reset. It's about maintaining a flow state when the environment is actively hostile to you. Matthew knows he can win there, which is a massive double-edged sword.
Because confidence can bleed right into arrogance.
Exactly. Confidence is a fantastic tool, but expectation is a heavy burden. To successfully defend that title, Matthew has to completely erase the memory of last year's victory.
Start fresh.
He cannot expect the concrete to owe him anything. He has to approach every single lap with the humility of a rookie, combined with the precision of a seasoned surgeon.
That's a tough balance. The moment he thinks, I've got this, I won here last year, His focus will drift, his braking point will move back 2 feet, and Nashville will put him right in the fence.
It's a haunting thought, really. Having to forget your greatest triumph just to survive the present. But if we are talking about ghosts at Nashville, we absolutely have to talk about Cade Donnelly.
Oh, man. The ultimate redemption arc.
Talk about it. I need to recount the sheer tragedy of Cade's last run at this track for you listening. Last season, Cade was the fastest driver on the grid by a country mile. He was putting on an absolute clinic.
Untouchable.
He built a massive, insurmountable 8-second lead. He is cruising to a guaranteed victory. And then he throws it all away by catching a devastating pit lane black flag that trapped him 2 laps down.
Bouncing back from beating yourself is the hardest psychological recovery in all of sports. Period.
Why is that harder than getting wrecked by someone else, like Andy Barber wrecking Zach?
Because you cannot externalize the blame. When Gary Wellman gets a penalty because of Burling's massive restart gap, Gary can be angry at Burling. The anger acts as a protective shield for the ego.
It's his fault. I'm still great.
Right. It preserves his internal narrative that he's a great driver who was wronged, but when you are Cade Donnelly and you have an 8-second lead and you mess up the pit entry entirely on your own,
There's nowhere to hide.
you look in the mirror and the guy who ruined your race is staring right back at you.
The ultimate betrayal comes from inside the house.
Exactly. And returning to the scene of that trauma is going to trigger a profound physiological response. When Cade pulls off the track and heads toward the pit entry at Nashville this coming week, his heart rate is going to spike dramatically.
He's going to remember it.
The ghosts of that black flag are going to be screaming in his ear. His prefrontal cortex is going to try and take over, just like Perry's did on the downshift.
So how does he survive that? How does he pit without choking?
To exorcise those demons, Cade has to achieve cognitive closure. He has to deeply, fundamentally accept that the past mistake does not dictate the future action.
He has to let it go.
If he hesitates on pit entry this week because he's terrified of another penalty, he'll lose so much time on pit road speed that he'll lose the race anyway. It is a massive test of his internal resilience. He has to trust his hands again.
I'm going to be watching his pit entry with a magnifying glass. Okay, final storyline for Nashville, and it connects back to our Chicagoland race winner. Ruben Phelps comes into Nashville on a serious hot streak.
2 wins.
2 wins under his belt. But, as he joked in the Discord, he has a massive bullseye on the roof. He is the hunted. However, because of his probation from that practice crash we discussed, he is forced to start at the end of the line, EOL.
Yep, back of the pack.
He has to start at the absolute back of the grid while being hunted by the entire Simboys squad.
It seems like a massive disadvantage on paper.
But let me throw a theory at you. Is starting at the back actually a psychological advantage for Ruben in this specific scenario? Doesn't EOL remove the crushing pressure of leading and allow him to play the hunter rather than the hunted?
That is a brilliant way to frame the tactical mindset, actually. When you start on pole with a bullseye on your roof, you're driving entirely in your mirrors.
Constantly checking behind you.
You're playing defense from the moment the green flag drops. You're waiting for the attack from the guys behind you. That state of hypervigilance is exhausting. It drains your cognitive RAM incredibly fast, especially on a concrete track that demands total forward focus.
You're just waiting for the axe to fall.
Right. But by starting at the end of the line, the narrative completely flips. Ruben has zero pressure to defend. Every single car he passes is a dopamine hit.
Oh, that's true.
He gets to go entirely on the offensive. He gets to dictate the pace of his own progress. And psychologically, for the drivers in front of him, looking at their relative delta and seeing the championship leader slowly, inevitably carving through the pack toward them.
It creates a profound sense of dread.
Yeah.
It's like the shark theme from Jaws playing in their headsets. Every time they look at the delta, he's a 10th closer. Dun, dun, dun.
No, exactly. The pressure shifts entirely onto the drivers he's chasing. The EOL penalty might actually be the exact psychological reset Ruben needs to manage the pressure of his own hot streak.
He doesn't have to protect a lead. He just has to hunt.
He gets to utilize that weaponized patience all over again.
Incredible. It completely changes how you watch the race. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If you take away one single thing from this deep dive into the OzOvals V8 Supercar series, let it be this. The sim rig, the expensive direct drive wheel, the load cell pedals.
The triple monitors.
Yeah, all of that. That is maybe 10% of the equation. 90% of this racing, 90% of the victory and the heartbreak is happening entirely between the driver's ears.
It really is.
It is a brutal battle of ego, of emotional regulation, of surviving the red mist and navigating the ghosts of your own past mistakes.
And as we look toward the concrete monster of Nashville next week, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When you are watching that race, I challenge you to look past the cars.
Don't just watch the paint schemes.
Exactly. Watch the driver's hands on their onboards and listen closely to their radios, who is breathing heavy into the mic, who is constantly complaining to their spotter about the guy in front of them.
The guy who's buffering.
Right. The driver who stays dead silent, the driver who manages their internal ramp, that is the one who is going to win.
That is exactly what we'll be watching for. All right, that's it for us today. Thanks for joining us in the Paddock Legends. Keep your revs high, keep your head cool, and we'll see you on the track. Cheers.